the lack of skill and content in starting a business and in running a business is more of a problem than the lack of capital. Venture capitalists don't give money to people who they know lack the capacity to manage the funds. I will borrow a line again from Mr. Tony Lumeli when he said that he hears young people complain a lot about capital, but they don't realize that the banks are not in business to give money to people who are high risk, who require angel investors and VCs, who don't have collateral to secure their money, because the banks don't own the money. The banks has shareholder money, the banks have depositors' money at stake, and they can't afford to place depositors' money and shareholders' money at risk, giving money to people who they've not tested and who are not sure, who don't have the collateral to back up the money they will take in case anything goes wrong with the business, right? So we should kill the idea that the banks have a moral obligation to lend money to small businesses. But we should not kill the side of the idea that says that the banks also have an obligation to reduce the lending rates that it currently gives out, in line with the proposal of the CBN governor to cut down lending rates in Nigeria by 30%, right? And the fight by the Bankers Committee to keep the status quo at bay, right? So it's a touchy issue, but it's important for us to realize some metrics. Number one, there's a lack of capital. We don't doubt that. The lack of VCs, the lack of angel investors, the lack of companies that are solely focused on investing in small and young businesses. The lack of incubation centers also, where you can find these businesses to invest in. We should also focus on the fact that there's a lack of training content and skill on the part of the young businesses who want to succeed, because the banks are not obligated to invest in businesses that are risky, but on the other hand, the banks are obligated to reduce the lending rates that they lend money out to young businesses. When Mr. Mitt Romney had the debate with President Obama in 2012, Mitt Romney emphasized on the failure of a few companies like Fisker and Solyndra, the solar panel producer and the automobile company competing with Tesla. But Mitt Romney fails to realize that the reason why Japan lost a decade in its history is because Japan has so much focus on the companies that have succeeded in Japan. The likes of Toyota, the likes of Toshiba, Panasonic, Mitsubishi, and the rest of them. I laud the initiatives of President Obama, setting up a competitive panel to look at the competitiveness of America in business. Because we need to go beyond the companies that have succeeded, not ignoring them, to the companies that can succeed in the future. We can see how Facebook in less than 10 years has come out to be worth $100 billion. And you can imagine how much tax Facebook contributes to the US economy.
Even Apple too.
Exactly. And you can see how one of the best of President Obama in that $90 billion intervention funds to private sector in America produced Tesla. Yes. Now, not that Obama funded Tesla, but Tesla was in a very bad shape. Yes. And the $465 million in loan the government gave Tesla revived Tesla and brought Tesla back to his feet. When you have the cost of running government, when you have big governments and you have bureaucracies in the system, when it's difficult for people to open new companies, to register new companies, when it's difficult for people to access funds, when the interest rates are high, the lending rates are high, when the utility on which businesses run and thrive successfully are not in place, how do you create jobs? So, the governments are talking so much about jobs, they are talking so much about the financial markets, but they're not talking about the metrics that we just mentioned that drives job creation and that ensures that the company succeeds. Because at the end of the day, if the company fails, how do you create jobs? Companies create jobs only because they succeed. When they fail, they usually retrench. They usually cut down on their labor size. Yes. You can see it from the banks in Europe, the likes of UBS, the likes of Societe Generale, the likes of Lloyds, the likes of BNP Paribas, that has had to cut down, the likes of JP Morgan in America, has had to cut down on their labor force, even Goldman Sachs, because of trading losses that they had. So if companies don't succeed, how do you expect them to create jobs? So I think the leaders of the G8, the G12 and the G20 should move away from talking about creating jobs and talking about regulating the financial market, which is very important also, to the issue of talking about enhancing the metrics, infrastructure, the utility, the tax system, the ease of doing business, the business confidence that other parts of the world has in bringing foreign direct investments that drives job creation.